I want to talk about the sort of biggest cause of aggravated subtle quality there is, which is bad relationships. And I mean sexual relationships here. So sexuality is a fundamental biological imperative, right? We all, our whole being is organized around what? Eating and reproducing, right? And of course we have our soul, which is oriented towards God as well. I mean, we have lots of orientations here, but our sexuality and eating are kind of really big ones physically. And so naturally, that whole subject reaches a lot of media attention because everybody knows it's really important, right? And nobody wants anyone else to tell them how to handle their sexuality, right? But it's an important topic where subtle is concerned. Because of its importance, it has a profound effect on our whole being. So issues like birth control are, and by this I mean the pill, taking that pill, is very subtle, right? Birth control pills are very subtle because they disrupt the nature of the reproductive organs. Our reproductive organs are supposed to function in a certain way, and anything that interferes with that interferes with this biological imperative and goes very deep. But not just the pill, but all contraception itself that interferes with our sexuality, it has a huge influence on culture. And we've seen this, that the tremendous revolution in human sexual behavior since the introduction to contraceptive devices of all kinds. And so whether you think that is good or bad, it's undeniable that there has been a tremendous change in culture because of birth control itself, and particularly a person who takes the pill, because it disrupts the nature of the reproductive organs itself. We have to wonder, how is that disrupting the nature of the whole person? And so it seems very subtle and simple. Seems very simple and easy to just take that pill, but we've all seen how that small choice has exerted a tremendous influence on society. So it's no secret that that relationships themselves are extremely important. Our sexual relationships, not just the use of contraception, but our sexual relationships themselves are extremely important. And a bad relationship is truly the biggest drain on our vitality. Right? We all know this. We all know that it's not just that we ate some ice cream last night. That's for most of us. It's that bad relationships. We seem to intuitively know that that's at the root of most of the problems that we have in our life. So sexual relationships themselves are very subtle. Any kind of sexuality in the relationship creates a tremendously strong bond that's difficult to disentangle, right? So once we're in a sexual relationship, we're bonded, and now in a way we can also be stuck, right? So physical intimacy creates emotional hopes and dreams. Once we have that physical intimacy, we have a hope and a dream that we're going to be united, right? That we're going to be united with our beloved, that we're going to experience the joy and the wonder of true love. And that desire is very natural when physical intimacy is present, because our hearts are made for connection. And so physical intimacy does have a profound and subtle effect on the heart. And don't we want it to be that way, right? What happens if no, it's like, oh no, that's not the case. Our sexuality has no effect on the heart. Well, there's a kind of cynicism in that, right? And so really our heart is made for connection, and having that tremendous intimacy exerts a huge influence on us, and we know it. So this modern idea of sexual liberation proposes that it's healthy to experiment with sexuality early in a relationship, and outside of any kind of real a huge effect on our whole population and our society. So, so intense intimacy early in the relationship causes the heart to invest its hopes in the relationship before that complete self-sacrificial love is present, and so now we're in that bond that's difficult to get out of, and so if we think of sex as something very special, then we're going to have that connection formed. We're going to have that strong bond, or the opposite. If we sex will lose its specialness, lose its meaning, and there can be a sort of cynicism about it as well. So, what's the problem with it? With all of this, what's the problem with being overly bonded in a relationship where we don't really want to be there, or we aren't really committed? Is that our false hopes in the relationship eventually crushed? Our entanglement may end a year later, or 5 years later, or 10 years later, with a broken heart, a loss of trust in the opposite sex, and so to prevent that intense influence, the heart must be protected from intimacy until the context is safe. And I don't only mean sexual intimacy here, but also emotional intimacy. Any kind of intimacy at all, really, creates a strong connection and a strong investment of feelings. So non-committal relationships or sexual intimacy and tenuous relationships lead to a lot of instability. If we become entangled in a relationship that lasts years together, then when the relationship ends, if it's not really meant to be, so to speak, then the emotional investment of those years is lost. So also we should talk about instability of that in general. 50% of all children in our modern society are born out of the context of a marriage or a lifelong commitment, creating instability and lots of moving back and forth for the children. A loss of involvement of one parent, which unfortunately usually means the dad, but not always the case. And so this is, this has to be looked at in our society, and you'll see it in clients as well. This long-term entanglements in their life that really are sucking the vitality right out of them. And the fix for that is to stop the physical intimacy until that relationship is truly bonded on all levels. All right. So reproductive system, subtle quality in the reproductive system. Sex does have a very powerful effect on our nature and our way of being, and so we have to be extremely careful with it.